Treaty of Versailles was a major factor in starting World War II, and if the treaty is written differently, it could have prevented World War II from starting. Usually, a conflict leads to a compromise, but the Treaty of Versailles, a compromise which led to a conflict, World War II, is a unique situation in the history of the world. January 18, 1919, the day the Treaty of Versailles Conference began, President Woodrow Wilson of the United States of America, Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau of France, Prime Minister David Lloyd George of Great Britain, and Prime Minister Vittorio Orlando of Italy. These four members were the most influential at the conference, and they were called the Big Four. President Wilson wants many of his 14 points included in the treaty, especially the League of Nations. The League of Nations required countries to work together and discuss topics such as trade and ways to achieve world peace. Sadly, many of Wilson's points were not included in the treaty, and if they were included, they weren't very effective. Prime Minister Clemenceau, Prime Minister Lloyd George, and Prime Minister Orlando didn't want to listen to someone who ruled a democracy with no territorial ambitions in mind. They didn't care that the majority of the European citizens looked to Wilson as a symbol of hope. In 1814, 1815, 1870, and 1914, Germany had gone to war with France on French land, killing many French lives. Germany won all four of its battles with France. Therefore, the country of France wanted revenge on its old rival, Germany, for all the French lives the country had cost.
The United States, said President Wilson, would aid in the establishment of just democracy throughout the world.
Descendants of the men and women who marched out from Paris in anger to grab Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, now to hail the 20th century peacemakers. The Big Four, Clemenceau of France, Lloyd George of England, Wilson of the United States, the Puritan schoolmaster with his vision of tomorrow that has nothing to do with reparations and revenge desired by the old world diplomats. This man is an idealist who truly believes that to promote international cooperation and achieve international peace and security, he must guarantee the world remains safe for democracy. For Wilson, the heart of the peace treaty is in the covenant of the League of Nations, the covenant that would abolish war and settle disputes by law and reason. Through 6 long months of debate and intrigue and compromise, Woodrow Wilson has held stubbornly to his dream, and the covenant has been written into the treaty. But Versailles is only a beginning.
What about Clemenceau, Lloyd George, or Orlando? Were they also peacemakers like Wilson? No, they weren't. Here's Dr. Michael Schroeder, a professor at Lebanon Valley College, to give us an expert's opinion.
Whereas Lloyd George from Britain, and especially Clemenceau from France, because in their view Germany had started the war, they wanted to punish Germany, right? They wanted to inflict damage, to dismember the German Empire, to keep the Germans from rebuilding their military.
The Treaty of Versailles was very punishing to Germany and took away all the territory Germany had gained in World War I and some territory they had gained before that. Also, Germany was forced to reduce the size of their military, and Air Force and Navy were not allowed. The German citizens had to pay a lot of money in war reparation costs. At one point in time, 1 trillion German marks was equal to $1 US. Germany's weak economy was one of the main reasons Hitler could turn the German citizens against the Allies and towards war and bloodshed.
And so that's exactly what Hitler then argued as he, formed this National Socialist Party. And, he wasn't very good at anything that he had tried before in life. He wasn't a very good painter, wasn't a very good artist. He wasn't a particularly effective soldier in the war. But he found out he had a special gift at sort of mobilizing people and rabble-rousing. And so he began giving speeches, and the more he talked about the stab in the back and how Germany is being humiliated, the great German nation has been humiliated by these traitors of Versailles. So this is the language. And then, because this is very often what dictators and wannabe dictators do, he started blaming other people. You know whose fault it is? It's the Jews, and it's the communists, and all these other people who aren't real Germans. So he began dividing Germans into, sort of real Germans and traitorous Germans. And so by scapegoating and by blaming the traitors of Versailles, the communists, the Jews, he was able to garner a lot of popular support. And so the Treaty of Versailles, in many ways, totally backfired, right? The goal was to create what Wilson called, the war to end all wars, and a treaty that would endure the test of time. And in fact, what it did is it punished Germany and created a fertile breeding ground for radical nationalists like Hitler to come to the fore. And then it really damaged the economy, right? I mean, you know that the economy was, because Germany had to pay reparations, they had to pay back. And so unemployment was through the roof. In order to pay back all that money, they started printing money, right? And so they print all this money, hyperinflation sets in to the point where there are photographs of women taking wheelbarrows full of money to the store to buy a loaf of bread, right? Or even burning Deutschmarks in the stove in order to to cook the evening meal, because they were worthless. And so hyperinflation, mass unemployment, debt everywhere. And so all these things created this incredibly fertile breeding ground for this kind of radical extremist nationalism. Because all nationalists, the basic idea of a nationalist is to say some people are in the nation and all these other people are out. And the basic question for any nationalist is who's in the nation and who's out of the nation, and how do we decide? So what Hitler is saying is that only real the Aryan race is in the nation, the great German nation. Jews are out, communists are out, the traitors of Versailles are out, gypsies are out, and so by drawing these very stark lines, the Treaty of Versailles really facilitated that because of its punishment of Germany and its kind of humiliation of the German nation. So,
after Germany's invasion of the Sudeland, which is a heavily populated part of Czechoslovakia, and the going of the German military, which is against the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, Germany and France decided that they needed to meet up with Chancellor Adolf Hitler and tell him what they would do if he invaded Poland. Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain of Great Britain, Prime Minister Edouard Daladier of France, and Chancellor Adolf Hitler of Germany all met at the Munich conference, and Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and Prime Minister Edouard Daladier told Adolf Hitler that if they invaded Poland, then they would declare war on him and his country. After 20 long years of international instability, on September 1st, 1939, Germany has invaded Poland. Great Britain and France have declared war on the German nation. World War II has officially begun.